Hi, we should really sort out an intro for this as opposed to just transitioning straight to my face.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay for that, Agens. I'm sorry.
I'll just do it myself. Welcome to today's episode of Mongrel Squad Reactions and Rants. We've got 3 videos today. There were a couple of Spectrum posts for up for vote, but they didn't quite make it. New headphones? No. These are actually my old ones. So get this right. Getting a bit sidetracked already, but I have a pair of Actis Pro 7s, wireless ones, and the charging port on it broke. So I've pulled out this old set that I have had for 4 years now. Batteries have never been changed out and it's still going strong. So yeah.
I'm wearing Sennheisers. If you're wearing Sennheisers in chat, you're a real one. I just want to let you know that. Okay. Moving on.
Anyway, we've got 3 videos to react today. They should be in the description of the video here as well if you want to check them out and follow along. Otherwise, we'll just get cracking straight into it. I want to try and keep this down to a reasonable time as opposed to last week's 2.5 hours. So
spoiler alert, that's not going to happen.
Probably not. Anyway, let's get cracking on with the first video. Let's go over to here with the game scene. Alrighty, so first one is by Metroximus. I believe that's how you pronounce the name, and it is I pirated 100 players in Star Citizen. This is what I learned. Now,
we're ready for an informative lesson.
Full disclosure on this one. I've actually watched this before. It's quite good. I liked it. We're going to watch it again to go back over it. And yeah, there was some interesting stuff that came out of this.
Star Simulator game. And like many of you, I've been playing this game for years, but I've always played on the legal side. As a security lead for a fairly large industrial org, I've had my fair share of fights against pirates, but I've always wondered what the other side was like. How much money did they make? Can anyone just become a pirate? Is piracy actually a gameplay loop, or is it just griefers and gankers? I decided the time had come.
100% griefers and gankers.
The wolves, I will enter the realm of piracy and find out firsthand how the most hated players
and the money is shit
actually live. First challenge was my account. I clearly couldn't help miners by day and then in some weird reverse superhero logic go out hunting those same miners by night. So I created an alt account, one with a slightly terrifying name that was not only recognisable but also instilled a sense of fear to encourage my targets to part with their hard-earned AUEC.
Help.
Now I needed a fictional organisation to go with it, which shows off how serious I should be taken as a pirate. Next, I could include the 3 golden rules to my pirate experiment.
Memes. Memes.
You know, I love that. I love that. The final countdown to Europe. I don't know, like, out of all the years of piracy that we've done in Star Citizen, I can tell you now that 9 times out of 10, the people that we've pirated have no fucking idea who we are. It's only been in the last 12 months that we have actually been getting recognized more and more. And
oh my god, is that Mongrel Squad?
In one way...
God, thank you for robbing me.
Yeah, that's weird when we get people doing that. In one way, it's been a good thing. In another way, it's been bad because people call out to us and like, hey, how's it going? And we're like, shut up, we're trying to work here. But yeah, anyway...
I was personally a fan of the suck ass poster. Thoughts on that, chat? I thought that was pretty clever.
It actually looked legit too.
I know, that's how you know you have a really clever editor on our hands, guys. Talent recognizes talent. I'll tell you that.
I'll just leave it at that.
Which I felt placed me on the piracy side and away from griefer status. I will always request a reasonable piracy fee, and upon payment, no further harm will come to the target. I want to reward the behaviour of miners and traders who run with an armed escort. Therefore, I'll never run from a fight, no matter how overwhelming the odds, giving my target a very good chance to destroy me if they arrive with friends. You can't pay, we take it away. I will always accept payment from a friend or kind stranger in global chat if you can't afford the fee. But without payment in a timely fashion or outright refusal to pay, I will ultimately be forced to kill you. With my ethical piracy policies in place, I now had to learn how to actually pirate. Mongrel Squad.
Hey, I know those guys.
Looks like a griefer org.
Isn't that the griefer org?
Yeah. Just wanted to go back to this one. Talking about the rules. 3 rules. Ethical piracy. We do ethical piracy. So payment allows safe passage. Yeah, that's pretty stock standard. If they pay, you honor your word. Never run from a fight. Yeah.
I can already tell.
Like, as far as I'm concerned, if they earn, like, they should earn the kill. Like, I agree with it on that premise, but fucking, if I'm gonna lose, I'm not sticking around. And if they can't pay, we take it away. That is kind of like rules 1 and 3. I see as like being kind of the same, or 2 parts of the same coin, or 2 sides of the same coin. It's that if they don't pay, then there needs to be a consequence. But if they do pay, then, you know, they get the thing that you want, or that they want, which is safe passage, and you get those credits. So, like, I see rules 1 and 3. It's one of those situations where it's like, you could have just, you know, got to put them together. But
yeah, they all kind of apply. And by the way, look at that number, chat. Subscribers, we're up just about 1,000 subscribers from that last number. Give yourself a pat on the back, chat. I like it. You're doing a great job.
Infamous pirate org within Star Citizen do have a very thorough pirate academy on their YouTube channel, which goes through most of the basics needed to understand piracy in Star Citizen.
it's already out of date.
Afterwards,
It was out of date a week after it came out.
Mad science videos. These
It's
videos
true.
in particular were incredibly detailed and went into key topics such as quantum snaring and distortion damage on ships. However, as someone who was never any good at maths, I learnt my first takeaway from this experiment. Piracy is actually fucking hard. Undeterred, I sent some money to my alt and went shopping for the tools I would need.
This is one of those points that it's like, we've got a lot of people in the chat that probably do piracy anyway, but this is, I guess, one of those points where it's like, at this point in the video, saying that piracy is hard is one thing. It's just, until you've actually done it, it's kind of hard to quantify how difficult it can actually be. Something that we get.
There's actually. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that something that, you know, we experience a lot in Mongrel Squad is that, you know, we have people that join us that are like, yeah, I know a fair chunk about Star Citizen. And then they join us and they're like, fucking, I know nothing. And it's like, the reason why, you know, they end up in that position is because Star Citizen doesn't impress on you on a surface level the necessity to learn as much as what you need to if you're going to do piracy in this game. And the irony is that there's lots of nuances to how you do piracy in Star Citizen. You know, like, you can do solo-based piracy where you literally just run onto people's ships in an armistice zone, like steal their ship and fly off. Yeah, like that's still technically
there's certain
piracy.
levels and echelons of piracy. Like, there's certain levels of echelons of piracy, like where one way of doing piracy is significantly easier than the other. Let's say, for instance, like the example that you made, walking onto someone's ship while it's in an armistice zone while they're trading, probably one of the easiest ways to do piracy and do extortion that I can think of, right? Also, things like, you know, pirating rock miners. You know how stupidly easy pirating rock miners is? Like, if you're only caring about the credits, all you need to do is show up and fucking torch the motherfucker. And the boxes spawn from the rock, and all you need to do is fly down, pick them up, and bam, that's your payday.
Mm.
The part where it's getting hard is when you're not focusing as much on the credits than you are on the act of piracy itself. Like when I see videos of people doing those lower tiers of piracy, where they're walking on ships or they're just torching people and they're making like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of credits from the targets that they pirate. I look at that, and honestly, while the credits are nice, I'm really not impressed. What the part of piracy that makes it hard is the actual finding, chasing, disabling, stopping, boarding, and capturing of a ship. That entire sequence, and and you can argue that it's not viable right now because, oh, you can't do anything with the cargo. Oh, there's no point in boarding a ship. Oh, you can't sell the cargo. It's like, yes, but that's not the point. You see us doing these things on our YouTube channel, of us actually going through the effort of using EMPs and distortion damage to stop the ship, and us getting on board and fighting the crew on board and taking over the ship completely. Whilst it may not seem relevant and important now, it will be soon and in the future, when we can actually take that cargo from the ship and there's actually a reason for us to get on board, and when the loss system in the game gets a hell of a lot more fleshed out to the point where just walking on somebody's ship while they're in armistice zone won't nearly be as easy as it is right now. But yeah, sorry, I'm rambling, but yeah.
That's the tier of piracy that we aim for, though, so it's one of the reasons why we're all passionate about it. It's like, we can do all that other stuff, but we aim to conduct ship boardings because in our minds, that's how we see, that's how you do piracy. And, you know, like, for us, when for myself, I've been doing this for years now. Piracy really came into its viability around 2 years ago. And it feels like a long time now, but when you look back on it, it's like, that's not very long ago. It came into its viability 2 years ago. You were able to do it to a certain degree before that, but even then, like, it was way more difficult. And it was still, like, if you think that you're fighting Star Citizen bugs now, you obviously didn't play in the earlier patches. Like, there's the bugs that we fight now, and then there's, like, the shit that we were fighting, you know, back then, where, you know, like, miners were just struggling to mine, you know, and then we would show up to extort them. And they'd be like, man, you know, I finally just found a rock that can actually mine. Like, well, you know, too bad.
Too bad.
But one of the points that I want to try and get across here is that Star Citizen as a game right now doesn't impress on players the game loop that we engage in. So not a lot of people understand just how difficult it can actually be to do right. It's because you've got many different tiers of piracy that you can engage in. The perception is that it's like, you know, all piracy is just that low level effort of just running onto someone's ship. It's like, well, you know, like, one of the reasons why we put videos out is because it's to show, one, you know, this is what you can do in this game now. Like, CIG hasn't sat there and gone, okay, these mechanics, you know, put together do this specific thing. It's, we've thrown these mechanics in and, you know, like, you know, have at it. And we've taken those and gone, all right, well, we can do this with it. And they keep changing the mechanics, making adjustments, and, you know, it either gets easier for us to do it or harder for us to, you know, do the things that we want to do. But we keep pushing because, you know, one, we're testing the game, seeing how we can actually, you know, push it to its limits to achieve what we want to, you know, engage in for gameplay wise. But it's also because, you know, CIG benefits from it as well. Like, we can, you know, the videos that we put out there is feedback for them. You know, they can watch the videos, they can see how players are interacting with those systems, and, you know, they can make design decisions on that and go, do we like that? Don't we? You know, do we like that or not? Do we want them doing that or don't we? And then, you know, like that, like, they don't tell us how everything's supposed to work in the first place. So we may end up in a position where we're doing something and we're going, yeah, this is exactly the way that it's supposed to work, and we're doing the right thing. CIG's just sitting there in the background going, we did not want them doing that at all. So then they make their changes.
Big sad.
But, you know, like there's, once again, Star Citizen is, you know, still in development, so there's a lot of systems missing. One of the things that, you know, I like to advocate for more in this game now is better security measures for players. You know, Apple Crow brings up a point that you can't remove people from your ships if your ship is in an armistice zone without getting a crime stat. It's like, you know, if you're at an armistice zone and somebody gets on your ship, you should be able to just select their name in the ship list and just boot them off. You know, right click on their name and go remove from ship, and, you know, simulate that security came down and booted them off the ship. That was it. But at the moment, you know, what we've got is what we've got. We can, you know, players, if they're smart enough, if they're inventive enough, can work out ways of dealing with these particular issues. It just takes more effort than what we want, you know, generally what we want to engage in. Which is why a lot of people like to argue that there is no piracy in Star Citizen. But as you'll see in this video on our channel, and there's a plethora of other channels out there from other Star Citizen piracy content creators out there, piracy is definitely a thing. All right, let's keep this going.
I required some specialist ships, and there was one ship in particular I was very excited to use.
Oh, here's the B-roll. I like the B-roll.
This is actually really well done. Like this should have been the Mantis ad.
RSI Mantis is the only ship in the game with quantum enforcement device capable of pulling out trading ships and mining craft from quantum travel. As a single-seat light craft, it has the speed to catch up with most ships in the game, and with distortion weapons, I could keep any ship disabled, forcing my targets to negotiate with me, else facing destruction. I felt I was ready. There was one final key component I was missing before I could enter the verse.
Yeah.
All the other pirate orgs had a catchphrase they deployed at the end of an engagement. I needed something chilling that instilled fear in the heart of those I crossed. My mind wandered back to Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels with Big Chris's final words.
There is one more thing. It's been emotional.
It's been emotional. Perfect. And so it was time. I had all my equipment ready, I knew where to look for potential targets, and I turned my PvP slider all the way to full.
Oh, my goodness.
Pause it too late. Where is it? we gotta slow through. I want to go through these slow.
And so it was.
What the fuck is going on with this sync tube? Go back. Listen. If it does it again, I'm gonna be upset.
And so it was time.
It did it again. Alright, fuck it.
Boarding prospectors can be interesting.
I heard absolutely nothing of what you just said.
No, I was just saying I would have liked to see like more of the full boarding action rather than just the cut together montage. That's just me. I like boarding actions. That's nice. I would have liked to see how that happens.
He's trying to condense this down into 10.5 minutes.
I know, Agents, but I'm being picky, man.
Yeah, no. Video has to be playing to skip sections. I want to go back to that PvP slider stuff.
For potential targets, and I turned my PvP slider.
Oh, God damn it. Alright, I once went to Arena Commander by accident. I feel like a lot of space stats would have definitely had their PvP slider set to that at one point.
All the way to full.
Is that the exact
The safe word is keep going.
Is that the exact font that...
Yeah, it is.
That's kind of cool. See, is that kind of detail we appreciate in videos, Agents? You gotta understand these things.
we've told
You're
targets
stealing
to
from
do
the
this.
working class. You're stealing from the working class. You can't steal from the rich.
That's Dobbs' RP voice of a industrial prospector.
I was making fun of that guy.
No, I was saying that, like, we've tried in raider teams that I've been a part of, we've tried to get, tell the target when they've told us, oh yeah, we can't, I can't pay, and it's like, we'll get someone else. Have you got friends? You got friends, surely. Ask in chat. And then next thing they try and run, or they try and bedlog, and we got to destroy them. But
I think that's actually happened before, where we got paid by some rando in global chat rather than the target. Like they paid on the target's behalf. I'm pretty sure that's happened a couple of times. I think I was there for one of them.
Yeah, I don't remember it happening for me. Like, we've tried.
A long time ago. It was like back in 3.12, I think.
Fuck. Oh man, that's 18 months ago.
Jesus Christ, don't remind me, man. Oh, 3.12, the God patch. One of the God patches for piracy. Thoughts on that, chat? We all in agreement?
Yeah, good chat. Good chat. Most say never pay pirates. Yeah. All right, let's keep this going. My favorite part of this is that he's in an eclipse and he's using the laser weapons. And I know exactly why he's doing that. Because the speeds that he's moving at, the torpedo won't reach the target.
Yeah, no.
It's so dumb.
Hence the common
so
problem that
dumb.
we always face when dealing with any ship that we chase. It's always at this speed. Never any slower.
.317 dropped, and with it, the removal of distortion damage and EMPs. No longer can I stop a ship to negotiate terms of payment. It's either destroy the
Just
ship or
reread
not.
that.
317 dropped, and
Oh wow. Oh, let's talk about distortion
Removed
for a
EMP
second,
and
guys.
distortion damage for shits and giggles. I feel like this, it's not removed, but it's like changed. And I think this should just be, like, this is one of those default lines that should be in every single patch note. Because I don't think there's ever been a time where there's been a patch where distortion damage hasn't changed in some way, shape, or form. It's
do they say anything? No.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Never. Not a fucking word.
And like, I'm interested to find out what their plans are with it. Like, it leads into an interesting discussion, because we use distortion damage to disable a ship. EMP is a type of distortion damage. The name for the EMP is actually wrong. Warlocks, Sentinels, the Hawk, there's another
Raven.
Raven, and the Cyclone RN. They all have
Cyclone AA, isn't it?
No. The AA does not have the EMP generator. It's a recon variant. Actually, no. I'm pretty sure. No, it is the AA.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is the AA.
Yeah. Which is retarded because it can't actually hit any of the ships that you would use it against.
Right.
The EMP generators are actually known as distortion pulse generators, and they named it that because it doesn't. The what we call EMPs don't actually work like EMPs in real life, and people started bringing it up, and the dev pretty much went, well, actually, they're called this, distortion pulse. Nobody calls them that. Anyway, over the iterations of, like, since we've had the Warlock, actually, we got Sucker Punches first. So we got Sucker Punches back in Arena Commander, and all they did was a little bit more damage to shields, and then they got nerfed. And then we got the Warlock, and man, the Warlock, when it was first released, was pretty much a one shot, and if you didn't do it right, you were going to die. What would happen is that when you release your EMP, your own ship would shut off for a short period of time. So you would disable your target. You didn't have to take down any shields or anything like that. You'd disable your target, but you would also get disabled. One of the tactics that came out was that Warlock pilots would lock a missile, come burning in, fire the missile at the target, and just as the missile was about to leave, they'd release their EMP to disable themselves and the target so that the target couldn't flare the missile off and destroy them that way. And the counter to that is if you saw a fucking Warlock coming at you, you knew and they were charging their EMP, you knew exactly what to do. You just flew straight at them so that, you know, you just burn straight past them. They'll release the EMP. You get disabled, but you wouldn't get taken out. Then team tactics started building out of that, where somebody else would lock the missile on you, you get disabled, you get destroyed by someone else. And it keeps, you know, it kept going up like that, and then pretty much you got 3.0 and then it just died again. 3.2, distortion damage. Like, a lot of people don't know just how effective distortion damage was, but I activated the video. Well, 3.2, you're actually able to use distortion damage to shut down ships as well.
You were able to actually shut off certain ships while their shields were still up.
Yeah. But that was over penetration from the distortion weapons.
Yeah. Well, think about that, right? Imagine if we had that today. Think about it. Overpowered? Yeah, probably. Do I want it? Yeah.
Problem with distortion damage is that it's, if we look at it as a damage type in RPG terms, it's the type of weapon that stun locks. And stun locks are shit, especially if you can just keep reapplying them over and over and over again without any sort of counter. That's kind of one of the problems that we've got with distortion damage at the moment, is that there's no viable counter to it other than making sure that anybody that's coming at you with distortion damage has a lot of damage coming at them before they get to you. Not many people know about this, but you know, there is actually a counter to distortion damage to reduce its effectiveness on the components other than using grade A military components, and that's to actually
power plants.
Well, it's all components.
Yeah, true.
Is reduce the power that that component uses through your power MFD. You go into the items tab, you get the little slider bar, and you slide it down. Problem with that though is that you need to think of doing that ahead of time before an EMP shows up, or you know, some guy with distortion weapons shows up and starts shooting at your ship. And during the middle of combat, you got to go into power MFD, you know, go to those particular components and start, you know, reducing the power. Problem is, you're reducing the effectiveness of your own ship to avoid taking as much distortion damage. Not a very well thought out system. And the reason why I'm talking about this here is because 3.17 is the patch where the design intent for distortion damage has finally met the actual design in the game. Distortion damage is now affecting components the way that I think it was Calyx Renault had stated 4 years ago
Back in
on Spectrum.
2018.
2017. Fuck, it's nearly 5 years ago now.
Shit.
Anyway. The thing about that is that distortion damage is only supposed to affect components that are online. If you turn the component off, distortion damage is not supposed to affect it. what we've experienced all the way up until this patch is distortion damage being able to affect components that were off or online, that were offline as well. So it treated it no different if it was on or off. And that's one of the things that we kind of, I wouldn't say take advantage of, but made it possible for us to disable a ship long enough to be able to board it. Now what we've got is ships that are able to pretty much be immune to distortion damage when components are off, which means that when we disable a ship, we effectively make it immune. And the stats for most components mean that they're going to recover within a certain time frame. Now we've developed our own little tool for our bot to tell us, you know, like if we're attacking a certain type of component with distortion damage, what type of, you know, distortion damage we're applying to it. It will tell us how much we're going to need to be able to achieve that. So if we're using warlocks, for example, and we're going up against like an FR 86, it'll tell us that we need to apply X amount of distortion damage. So that equals X amount of warlocks, and that component will be shut down for X amount of time.
Firing all at the same time, by the way.
Yeah. Now, that's the other thing that came about, is because distortion damage dissipates on most components so quickly, we have to apply it rapidly in order to be able to gain the effect that we're looking for, which is shut down. So now what we're dealing with here is the direct distortion weapons aren't as effective as what we need them to be against larger ships, because the components are able to dissipate the distortion damage at a faster rate than what we can normally apply. So if we want to be able to use direct distortion damage weapons, we need to be able to either put them on turrets, or we need to put them on a lot of ships to be able to maintain the direct distortion damage required to shut it down. Or we can just use EMPs and do big burst distortion damage. So we obviously go with EMPs because the amount of ships required for distortion weapons is more than what we're willing to use. Anyway, it's an interesting point. I love the fucking patch notes. Sorry?
Yeah. Well, I'm just like, it doesn't increase the skill ceiling either to it. Like, it only increases the amount of resources required to pull it off, which is the problem. Like, I'd be fine if it was designed in a way to where it made it harder and you have to be more skilled in order to pull it off. But something like this, that doesn't do it. It just increases the amount of resources that you need to do it. Like, what used to take one warlock now takes 3. And for other components, what would then take 3 warlocks now takes fucking 9 or 16. Or, you know, like, that is far beyond any reasonable, you know, gameplay or resource requirement for gameplay, you know, so there's that.
Yeah. Anyway, bit of a history lesson on distortion damage and a bit of a lesson on how it's changed over the years and how we've managed to adapt to it. Let's keep this going. I actually liked this part. I thought this was actually quite inventive, this next part that we're going on about.
And with it, the removal of distortion damage and EMPs. No longer could I stop a ship to negotiate terms of payment. It was either destroy the ship or nothing. This didn't feel like piracy to me, and so I was stuck. Furthermore, with changes to mining and bunker missions, more people were raiding ground bunkers as opposed to running the industrial gameplay loops. People were able to make significant amounts of money from bunker missions, grabbing rare loot items which can be sold at shops. I could just wait outside the bunker and kill people as they left, taking their looted goods and selling it on, but again, this didn't sit right with me. There was one significant risk with bunker missions, however. They were filled with enemy AI. Upon death, a player could request a medical beacon as a mission, which, if accepted, allowed another player to rescue them. The problem is, the mission was bugged and never paid out. This felt like the perfect grey area for me to play in. I would take my Cutlass Red ambulance, kidnap the individual, and fly to a height of a few hundred meters. Here, I would remove their weapons, overheal them so they entered a drugged and disorientated state, and gave them 2 options. Either they pay my fee, or, in true pirate style, they walk the plank and fall to their death. There was
now, this
one
is just
problem with this
bullying,
clan,
and I love
however.
it.
It meant that I was trapped on my own ship,
Yeah.
several hundred meters above the ground, with some very drugged up and angry players. So my experiment came close to its end. When I look at the total figures, what I made in 3 months of piracy I could have made in a few hours of grinding missions. My success rate of being paid for a hit was around 10%.
Oh, here we go.
Or
I know you got
you
something
could
to say
do
about this.
one Nine Tails event and fucking in a C2 and just crack this out. Yeah, 3 months, 100 players. And was it successful solo hits 11%, successful squad hits? Actually, does he differentiate when between the walking the plank and interdiction ops?
And the only reason I really made this much money was because I hit a couple of traders running with audio-visual equipment.
That's funny because when we were doing those interdictions as well, fucking nearly every one of them combat logged on us. Everyone. So the fact
what
that
do
you're
we
able
call
to make
those
any
kinds of
credits
people?
out of that is amazing.
It's completely like completely dependent on the target.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see that, you know, he got like a 10% payout, or he had a 10% success rate on payments solo, and then 25% success, or 26% on squad hits. Like, this isn't the first time that I've seen somebody do something similar to this. Captain Burks has done this before. He's actually run experiments twice. Back in 3.9, he did that. I think he did 50. Or maybe it was more. His figures from the first time was back in 3.9 during the Laranite Rush, he was like 5%. 5% out of all the people that he attempted to pirate paid out. The rest just either ran away or they got destroyed. And then he did it again during Invictus Week when the audio-visual equipment was being moved. And it was kind of the same results. And it's interesting to see this. Go ahead.
One night for the NA time zone, I know this specifically. We pulled about a dozen trading ships on that line with audio-visual equipment. We pulled about a dozen ships in, I would say, less than an hour or less than 2 hours, somewhere around that, just sitting on that line. And the only one that paid the wrong user. So they sent the money, but they sent it to the wrong guy. So we ended up just fucking killing him anyway for him being stupid. And like it was a completely random player, by the way. That's the conclusion that we came to, because I think it was Gluttony who Gluttony was telling the target to send the money to one of our people, but they sent it to somebody. But for some reason, they were trying to send it to somebody else in our team, but they didn't even do that. They sent it to a completely random player, and at that point, we just had enough. We just fucking killed the guy. But yeah, like that just goes to show like the ratio and the the attitude that these targets have, and the fact that all of them will just fucking log out. It's crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah. We've been tracking our own stats for our piracy hits, and
I gotta let them hear it.
so when we first started our bot, back when we were on Discord, we first started our bot on the 28th of October 2020, and the main purpose of the bot was to help us track our successful hits. So every time we would successfully pirate someone, so that meant that we got profit out of the hit. So it was either we hit a rock miner, or we managed to extort someone, or we blew up a cargo hauler and the boxes actually survived and didn't despawn. We would record those hits, the value of the actual items that we would take. And like the data that we've collected over the years shows like quite easily for an organization, even from when we started then, because I think we're around only 50 or 60 people around then, we're now sitting around 140 or something.
140, thereabouts, yeah.
Even now, like the amount of credits that we're sitting on that we've been able to pirate, like just for this patch alone, I think we only just hit 22 million, 23 million. And that's for just 317. And for an organization of our size, if we were actually going to, care about making credits, we could grind that out. Like that's like only a couple of days of work, really. In fact, for some people in this org, that's like they could do that in less than a week.
We'd probably be breaching like hundreds of millions at this point if we actually if the credits were our only sole purpose.
Well, by not doing piracy though, like that's by doing everything else other than piracy.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see those stats over time, the influences from the patches as well. Like we can tell when we've had a really bad patch because the tally is a lot lower, and it's not because we're not motivated to go out there and do piracy. It's because we just aren't able to either find the targets or they're just not paying out. But when this video first came out, I asked Carlos, because he has access to the database, and I got him to grab all the tally entries. Now, I want to make this point here. We only record our successful hits. We don't record all of our hits. We'll note people's names for when bloody, we'll note their names if we think that they're worth knowing for future reference in case we run into them again and we're like, we know this guy's not going to pay, just cap him. But for the successful hits, around the time when this video came out, which I believe was a few months ago now, stats for it. It's on June. Okay. So this came out around mid-June. Around that time, we had successfully pirated over 1,000 players by that point as an organization. And, going off what old mate's saying here, like from solo hits at 10%, so 10% success payment. For us, that's close to, what was it, 10,000? If we went by his squad stats, where it was 26%, well, that's like 4,000 or 5,000. But then you got Burks' stats from 3.9, and it's like, all right, well, if we went by those stats, it was only 5% of the people that was paying out. So, we're looking at close to 20,000 there. And the thing is that we do a lot of piracy in this org. I don't think there's a day where there isn't someone in this org doing piracy somewhere. There's always someone in this organization out there looking for someone to pirate. So when it comes to, you know, like seeing these stats here, it's one of those situations where it's like, I want to expand on our capability of collecting these stats so that we can present them to CIG and go, look, you know, this is what we're doing. Yeah, we know that you guys aren't working on this yet, but these are the behaviors that we're experiencing. So we've upgraded our tool set so that we can actually track not only hits that we have successful successful hits, but also hits where we're not successful. And we're going to be using it pretty much exclusively from 3.18 onwards. And it's a good time to actually switch because we're now going to get, cargo refactor. So
What?
if it goes the way that we want it to, and we're able to liberate the cargo from other players' ships, we're not going to be asking for ransom or extortion anymore. It's literally, we're taking everything from you and you can try and stop us. That's it.
I'm gonna fucking dumpster your ship. I'm gonna fucking shoot you in the mouth. I'm gonna take everything you fucking have, and you're not gonna get a fucking word out of me. I'm gonna fucking dumpster everybody. I don't care. I don't care, Agens. There isn't anything you can say that'll change my mind.
I might say, I might ask if they've got any last words or anything like that.
Yeah, you know what? You know what I'll say? I'll say get fucked. I'll say eat a bag of dicks. Give me all your shit.
The thing is like for us, when we've been doing piracy, like for as long as we have, like, you know, it's always been us taking the initiative. Like, you got to take the initiative if you want to be doing piracy in this game. Targets aren't going to come to you. You got to go find them. You know, you can't just sit around and wait and, you know, hope for something to come to you. You got to get out there and find it. And we've always had to push that initiative, you know, like we're going out there, we're going to find them. Okay, it's a cargo hauler. Well, we can't really make much off their cargo if we destroy the ship. So, you know, we'll try and extort them. If we can't, you know, if they won't pay, then we'll board their ship and then we'll try and ransom the ship back to them. And, you know, sometimes it works. Most of the time it doesn't. It's just gotten to the point now where we're just fucking over it. You know, the notion that quite a few people in this community that they have where they're like, oh yeah, buddy, if we don't pay, they'll stop doing it. It's like, we don't do it for the fucking credits. We do it because it's fun. So what do you like? We're not going to, you know, we're going to try and make it as least fun as possible. It's like, well, you know, you'll make it as least fun for us for this encounter, but the next one may be better.
Yeah. So
we'll go and, you know, we'll keep going. And the notion that if everybody keeps doing that, you know, like we'll get bored and move on. It's like, well, no, we'll just change tactics. And with salvaging coming, everyone's a viable target now. So either way, we're going to make fucking profit.
Well, I'll still get on your ship. I don't care. I'll still get on your ship and fucking rub my ball sack in your face.
I'm pretty sure you're going to experience a lot more self-destruct than I will, Dobbs.
Mm-mm.
All right, let's keep going.
All in all though, it was far higher when I flew with a couple of other people. That being said, where initially I was more focused on how much money could be made from piracy at the start of the video, I found that by the end of this experiment, I didn't care if I was paid. Running as a pirate was a similar experience to drinking full fat Coke for the first time when you've only ever had the diet version. I didn't realise it then, but the way I used to play Star Citizen was to just go to this location, kill this person, then move to the next location and pick up this box and so on. I've been playing this game on autopilot. With piracy, every time I did something, there was a player interaction element to it. And sure, whilst not all of it was positive, I felt that for the first time I was playing a multiplayer game. I actually ended up wanting to log in more and more on my pirate account as opposed to my main, as I was meeting so many new players. Some were other pirates, others were solely pirate hunters. And I still to this day sometimes run with them on a number of operations. I found that if you treat others with respect and understand that not everyone likes being pirated, the best memories I have is where both myself and the target can laugh about it afterwards. And I would encourage anyone watching this video to do the same.
It's the friends you made along the way.
Because let's face it, no good story ever starts off with, so I was doing this box mission, right?
Not unless you use box missions like we do. So,
Hey, yeah, you heard it. You heard it because apparently it's an exploit because the boxes, they clip into the ship, which allows us to track them. It's an exploit, Agents. We're exploiting.
we can't help that. They used to stick on top of it, but yeah. But the points that he's making here, and this is something that I guess not a lot of people experience. I can tell you now, a lot of people in Mongrel Squad used to just log in to Star Citizen when the new patch would drop. They'd check it out, play it for a little bit, and then leave. And then they'd do that again for the next patch. It wasn't until they saw our videos that they went, oh, that looks cool. Let's give that a go. I'll join these guys. And then they join us. And then they, play. And some of them have been, going hard for like 18, 24 months now. And they went from logging in, once every 3 months, twice every 3 months.
And you guys are the real ones.
The point that I'm getting across here is that the strength of Star Citizen is going to come from the gameplay that you can make yourself. Being able to push out and make your own fun within the game space helps create scenarios that are unpredictable. And the fact of the matter is that once you've done a lot of the activities in this game, you've done it 1,000 times. But piracy, even though at its core, when we do our training, curb stomping a caterpillar is the same as curb stomping a herc, is the same as curb stomping a carrack. But everything that happens during that entire encounter, because it's done against another player, we have no idea what's going to happen. Anything could happen. There's been times where we're trying to pirate someone and then an NPC security shows up and starts telling us to stop because they want to scan us. Or we'll be sitting there and then all of a sudden, another player shows up and they just fly through the space while we're there having this huge battle. They just fly through pretending like they're not, not even there. And they'll just keep going on their way. And then other times players will try and band together, try and fight us off. Normally doesn't work. But that unpredictable nature of what we do when we're doing piracy draws people back into it. Because it's fun. You don't know what's going to happen. I say it now, like a lot of people who join us that haven't really done much piracy, when they get to do piracy with us, it's just one good hit. One good hit will hook you when it comes to piracy gameplay. And you'll want to look it out again. You'll want to seek it out, search for it. And it's actually something that a lot of the other professions are missing. And I believe part of the reason why is that it's so heavy-handedly designed. There's too much design influence, too much of a person trying to interject themselves into how something's supposed to work, as opposed to what we've got with piracy, where we are given the tools and then we decide how to use them. And we make it work our way.
All right, I need to reel you in here. You need to finish this video, man.
Shit, we're already on an hour. This was only 10 minutes.
Now that is impressive. Let's get some claps in chat for old Matroximus here for creating a very fun and informative video on piracy gameplay in Star Citizen.
Emotional, damn it!
Lots of emotional damage.
Yeah, it was a really well made video. I'm just catching up on chat. Sorry, that's why I've gone really quiet. Ah, Matroximus is here. Welcome. Yeah, no, it was really well done. First thing I noticed actually after watching the whole thing was the, I guess the hero's journey arc that you interjected into it, which was done really well. It was also interesting, like collecting that data, like seeing 3 months worth of piracy there. But yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like, it helps a lot when you're doing a piracy hit and being able to have somebody there handling the B-roll capture. There's been a few hits that we've done where we've had Dobbs present and he's just there, like, he's supposed to be our counter escort, but we know no one's coming, so he'll just switch to cinematic camera mode and just start getting all the cool shots.
Yeah,
and
I haven't done that in a while, mainly because I haven't been putting that role in a long time.
And it's cool to see all the pieces working together, like the machine that we run when we're doing piracy, because having the ships and then the Marines deploying, all the ships are there providing cover and EMPs going off. Like, there's been times where I've done piracy hits and I'm like, I'm pretty much playing Star Citizen how it should be done now.
Yeah, what's also cool about it, it's an experience that is unlike anything else that you'll experience in this game. And the cool thing about it is also we manufactured this for ourselves. CIG never spoon fed us, our gameplay. Like, this is one of those things where we looked at what we had in the game and we turned it into something, and now we have so many more people and creators and organizations coming in and doing the same exact thing and sharing it and enhancing it, and it's really something. It's really something. Cool to see.
I'm just getting the next video ready.
Like, we really ended up seeing a resurgence of, or not a resurgence, but like an uprising in piracy in just about the last 2 years, I would say. Like, Mongrel Squad has been doing piracy since all we had was the Arena Commander module. I remember, Agens, you would talk about, going in EVA and disabling and boarding people's ships in the Arena Commander module. Like, that was essentially how piracy was back then, and there was no tangible value out of that other than just, the skills that you would get from it and being able to do it. Yeah.
Just being able to do it.
Ever since around like 3.5, 3.9 and beyond, we've seen so many more people getting around doing piracy, and that just shows like the thing that we've set out in this game to do is to prove that piracy is a viable thing. We want to push piracy further into its development, and videos like Matt's and all the other creators and orgs that we've seen really validates all that effort. And it's really something to see. And you guys, everyone that's been, you know, doing it and training and playing, it's all thanks to you guys. You guys are doing incredible and awesome work.
We're waiting on the other players to kind of catch up. A lot of people keep making these excuses, you know, like it's not that profitable, or it's, you know, too difficult to sort out. It's like, you should be like piracy. You should be looking at how we do piracy. Like, we don't show it in our videos, but we tell every single person that applies to join us, if we're going to give them a shot, like, you know, what you see in the videos is like the last 15 minutes of the hit, where it's all the excitement. You know, we don't show the 2 hours of fucking hunting a target, searching for them, because it's normally boring. Well, we'll set up the shots.
There's a lot of exposition. There's a lot of exposition in the videos that you edit.
Yes. Actually, the next one that's going out, if I get it done in time, will have a lot of it too.
Oh, Jesus.
There's a reason for it. You'll see in the video. But it's one of those situations where it's like, we experience a lot of boredom, and, you know, we don't get a lot out of our gameplay, you know, from a credits perspective. We do it because we find it fun. And that's one of the problems that I think this community has when it comes to the security side of things, is that they're too focused on their gameplay being viable purely through credits, where credits don't actually matter right now. And
They've never mattered.
The reality here is that we're going to have to wait, and most likely it's not going to become... It's going to be a bit of a rude shock for some of these orgs and players. Like 318 is going to be a huge, you know, shock to the community when we're able to just take all their shit without, you know, their permission. And then, you know, when we get server meshing, it's going to be a huge shock to the system, because it's not only pirates that they're going to worry about, it's other groups that are going to be competing for the same limited resources, which, you know, at that point, some of them will be approaching pirates and saying, hey, can you go pirate my competition? I'll pay you to do it. And look,
and we would say yes.
Right there. But yeah. Anyway. Won't bend the knee. I'm not bothered if they don't want to, you know, pay or anything like that. They're making a decision. That's what we do. We present a choice and they make a decision, and then they deal with the consequences. Just like
sooner or later, your decision, sooner or later, their decision won't fucking matter.
Well, they'll still have decisions that they can make. It's just, unless they make good ones way before we show up, they're probably not going to work out for them well.
Won't change the outcome, though. I'm still taking everything. Right, Agens?
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's move on to the next video. This one is from the Eradicator. Dobbs, I dropped the link in Gilded for you.
Oh, yeah, I see it. The link, the room hasn't changed. You just dropped a new video.
Okay.
I'm still in the same room.
All right, so this one is from the Eradicator.
Erad.
Here we go. It's from the Eradicator, and it is Star Citizen PvP. This should never be happening.
Never.
Never. I haven't watched this at all. I just saw the title and I'm like, that looks interesting. And everybody in Mongrel Squad upvoted it. So I'm like, guess I'm reviewing it. Reacting to it.
I haven't watched it either. I have no idea.
All right, let's just get cracking straight into it.
Hey guys, what's going on here? And in this video, well, I'll be spending some time around security post-career because you guys know that it is my home. I often do videos around this place in Star Citizen, and I'm so glad, by the way, that it will get some refactor or rework for 3.18. Anyway, we got a mission today that we will try to do 2 NPCs to take down, but I think that I'm hearing some engines here, so there's definitely somebody else around the station. Oh, and it looks like that station does not like that somebody else. Looks like we got a criminal around trying to clear their crime stat. Oh my, well, we better get back into the Scorpius, which is today's ship that I'll be flying. It's the stock Scorpius. I did not outfit it for PvP, unfortunately, but that's okay. It's still a pretty decent ship. And so we'll be trying our best to see what's going on here around the station, shall we?
I feel like was rushing that entire time, narrating that.
You think this was a live commentary or a post commentary?
I'm pretty sure this was
So,
post.
back into the cockpit here, and we are going to be definitely checking what is going on. Looks
I think
like
it's
I've got
infinitely
a couple
funnier
of
if this is a live
contacts around.
commentary.
Yes, there is definitely a red target over there. Let's see what it is. An eclipse. Okay, well, we're not going to be wasting our time. Looks like they are trying to come discreetly around security post Korea. Yes, they're definitely going for security post Korea. Sorry, buddy, you will not be clearing your crime stat today. Are they gone already? Well, I think that unfortunately they have jumped away.
Chad,
well,
dude.
you know what?
I
think that if I were this guy, I would totally have done the same because, well, that's what you do when the Eradicator is coming after you, right? Eradicator is after me. By the way, if you haven't checked this wonderful machinima from Alcon Funk, I'll put the link in the description down below. Anyway, well, I guess that it's time to go back to Security Post Korea and do that mission after all. Well, we were a little bit interrupted here by this Eclipse, who I suppose decided to clear their crime stat somewhere else. Well, maybe I should check out later if there are if there's anyone having bounties, perhaps. In the bounty hunter tab, still need to do the contractor evaluation of at least the certification. Volpine, no, that was not this gentleman here. Seems like quite a few people do have a crime stat. Indeed, it looks like I also have a reading, if I am correct, under the station. Is there actually somebody trying to clear their crime stat already?
Voiper. No, it's alright, I don't remember him. You might have to tell me a story about this name before I remember them.
Tell me a story, Juan. Preferably with the blue screaming thing.
Honestly, I thought this video was going to be a bit more interesting. So far, we just had 2.5 minutes of rushed narration over old mate taking off to go shoot at someone that ran away.
This is live gameplay, Agents. This is the Star Citizen experience on a day-to-day basis. And ERAD is just doing the genuine thing and showing the community what playing this game is like on a day-to-day. And I think that's noble. Wouldn't you say, Agents?
Well, you know, I know some people are into it, but the title indicates that there might be something a bit more to this so far. But I haven't seen it yet.
We have to watch and find out. What do you think, chat?
Let's find out.
At Security Post Korea, because look at that, there is a C2 Hercules right under that platform. And why would you go under that platform? You would go under that platform so that the turrets would not shoot you. That's definitely what it is. The C2 Hercules here is open, and it really feels like there's... Oh, I'm being targeted. And I don't think that it is the C2 Hercules. I think it's empty. There is a ship right there. All right, let's have a look and check it out. It's definitely a player, I believe. Yes, we have a name. Oh my, they're attacking me. Are they crazy?
Oh my God.
Well, they have definitely started first. They have shot first. So I am going to answer, and I am going to be fighting back. Also,
all right, I want to point something out here. I want to point something out with this. Okay, so old mate shot at him. He's still not red. So, not many people understand this, but red does not mean criminal in the game. It means hostile. And you can be a hostile without being a criminal. All you got to do is shoot at someone. But you need to apply enough damage to someone to turn red. So if you want to bait someone into turning into a hostile so that you can retaliate against them, you shoot them enough. You shoot them enough so that you don't turn red, but you get their attention. And this is where they, go, oh, I'm getting shot at. And then they decide to shoot back. And then you make sure that you take enough shots that they turn red for you, and then you can just lay into them. I don't know if that's going to happen in the next couple of minutes, but that's what it looks like right here.
Lost tech. Well, here are a few. I was going to send a.
Oh,
He just locked a missile on him. Okay, so if you want a guaranteed way, like there are a few guaranteed ways of being able to mark yourself as hostile. Locking a missile on someone is one of them. This is one of those situations where these mechanics here aren't very well understood by the wider community. And the irony is that they all screamed for this shit. They wanted this in the game because they were getting tired of being put into a position where they had to wait for somebody else to make the first move of almost destroying their ship before they could retaliate. So in the case of locking missiles, you'd have to wait until they would fire those missiles and those missiles strike you before you could actually treat them as a hostile. So CIG made locking missiles a hostile act. So if you lock your missiles on someone, you're going to turn red for them. And the thing is that you don't get told any of that. Your HUD will not tell you that you're becoming a hostile to them. You're just expected to know.
A few missiles, but looks like it's on. I haven't done any PvP for ages, guys, so sorry if I'm a little bit rested. I am also playing with mouse and keyboard. I don't have my Predator mounts yet, but hopefully very soon I'll be getting them. I'll be trying them out, and I'll be trying dual Josie for the first time. But it looks like they're sending missiles.
Ignoring all the commentary that he's throwing in there. Oh, mate, you would have seen it. He went from blue to red. He had been shooting back, but if you're paying attention to Erad's shields there, they haven't gone low. They're still, I'd say 90% there. Yeah, old mate turned red when he locked a missile and fired. Now, he turned red as soon as he locked the missile on him. So that should be enough of an indicator to tell you that old mate's baiting you into a fight. So now he's showing up as a hostile. He's not a criminal, he's a hostile. And under this hostility system, you're technically allowed to fight back and destroy them without suffering repercussions.
Already starting to avoid these here, sending some chaffs. I have missiles on my own as well. Whoa, there was a little bit of an explosion there. Some missiles definitely blew up here. It is a sort of a missile battle over there between myself and Oztec. I am flying right now a Scorpius with quad size 2 laser repeaters. He is flying a Gladius Pirate Edition. I got a little bit of the shield here hurt in the front, but nothing serious. Let's just hope that we're not going to be facing any.
He's not doing any capacity management
spinning,
at all.
It's always a good trick, but when you're facing an Eradicator, it is not always a good thing. Look at that! The shields are depleted. That is how much damage the Scorpius here can do. He's lost his shields, and now I'm just trying to shoot whatever I can.
I don't know who's worse.
Using the gimbals. Sorry about this, because I said it is not outfitted with size 3 guns, so these are the stock size 2 guns, and I think I'm going to be on an advantage here using the gimbals. And well, looks like already the core of the ship is ready. We're still going to be working here on the hull to make more damage. Perhaps we'll even destroy some of the components of this ship here. Maybe he'll be spinning out the control. No, looks like he still has full control of his ship.
Management. Doesn't look like
it. You're not really seeing any capacity management here. Like, you don't really need it that much against NPCs, but if you're fighting against a player, like, old mate's just constantly jousting backwards and forwards, and all Erad's doing is pretty much spinning in a circle. Now, he's admitted that he hasn't done PvP, in a few months, so it's like, all right, well, let's cut him some slack on that. But this is one of those situations where it's like I'd be reviewing this, and for myself, I'd be reviewing this and going, all right, what can I do to make this better? Because he's holding his ground quite well. Old mate's just jousting in and out. I would say that, you know, like, the missiles are a waste of time. Myself personally, I'd just be trying to slow that fight down, which he's actually moving pretty slow there. But trying to get old mate to slow down, which means being comfortable enough to, you know, like pull them in and take some hits. You can take some hits on the Scorpius, pull them in, take some hits, and then push on them with all your guns, because you got 4 of them. You're outgunning them by 1. You should be able to smash through his shields and then, you know, start doing hull damage and chip away at them that way. Yeah, you're right, Novak. That fucking the Gladiator should already be dead if you're in a Scorpius fighting them, but it is what it is.
We're gonna be in range here for a couple of missiles. Here we go, 2 missiles literally. Here we go, are they gonna be hitting here? And there we have it.
Splash.
Here, Oztek, you have been eradicated.
Oh, the catchphrase.
And of course, a little taunt here in the chat for good measure. Oh, well, looks like this fight is not over. There is another target here. What are we having here? This is an Avenger Titan, and this is Volker. That's the guy who actually has his bounty. So are we looking here perhaps at a party that is here to be helping this guy to clear his crime stat? That is a possibility. Well, I still have a couple of missiles left here in this Scorpius, so we'll definitely be... What is going on? Look at it. I'm having a crime stat for destruction of vehicle against Oztek.
Yep.
That, guys, is outrageous.
That's exactly what you said earlier. Oh, you don't even need to say anything.
Like, I explained this at the start of the video. This isn't entirely his fault. I'm not going to say that this is entirely his fault, because I believe CIG has explained this poorly amongst the community. This actually was released in this information about the update for the hostility timer, because that's what it's called. It's a hostility timer. It was released in, I think it was 3.16. It was one of those side, you know, it was released in the patch notes that they were adding it. And that was really about it. And they wanted players to give feedback on it. And it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, like, you know, people just didn't understand how it worked. It, like, you just saw it in effect right there. Essentially, you got baited. You got baited into a fight. Old mate didn't get it, but he didn't turn hostile. Erad did. And he killed him. And because he's in common ray range and he was a hostile to him, he's going to end up with a crime stat.
Gotta love that catchphrase, Telva. That was my favorite part of the video, honestly, so far.
The catchphrase, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
oozing with charisma.
He just kind of walked into this problem, though. Should this never be happening?
It's been emotional.
Like, blood butter. It's been emotional, yeah. Like, let's finish the video and then I'll finish off the commentary.
This shouldn't be distracting me here in this fight
Should not
against
be
this
happening.
Titan, but that is...
Come on, scrub back, you piece of shit.
Destruction of a serious issue because I was not the one. I checked the replay, actually, and we definitely did see it together a little bit before, as I'm still fighting here. I was not the one who started the fight. He actually targeted me and
So this is post-commentary confirmed.
Yeah.
shot me first. How? And we're gonna...
Well, he didn't review the footage that well because he didn't turn fucking red. Another thing about this is that if you're going to say that you went back and, reviewed the footage, then go back and actually oh, wait, no, he's doing the replay here. I'll shut up now.
We're gonna be checking the replay right now. So this is what's happening. I saw the C2 Hercules. I was being targeted. This is the guy who is targeting me right here, and you can see I am not doing anything. I did not even target him, and here he is starting to shoot me. We can see his name, Osttech. That definitely is him shooting at me first, and yet I am the one who ended up getting a crime stat. That is really...
I love it. Enhanced.
He missed the crucial part. He missed the crucial part though. Like he misses the crucial part of where it shows that when he turns around to engage him, he's still blue. Like he was still blue. Like, we can scrub back through this video and see it ourselves. I would say that we could do it, but this is on SyncTube and it fucking hasn't worked for me yet. Keeps jumping forward even when I'm playing it. But, yeah, like, as soon as he locked that missile on, he made himself a hostile to Osttech. Osttech has a justification to shoot back. Now, here's the thing about this is that red means hostile, not criminal. Therefore, when you shoot back at someone, you're going to show up as red. And when they shoot back at you, they're going to show up as red. So from both parties' perspectives, you're both red. You're looking at each other and it's like, that guy's red, I must kill him. Because every iteration of bloody, of flight combat that we've got up until now, blue means on your team, red means dead. You should be killing it. Normally associated with being a criminal, but recently changed to being associated with hostile. And this is the thing, like, this sort of stuff actually needs to be explained better to the community. Like, this should never be happening.
You're asking too much.
No, like, this is perfectly fine what happens. You should know better. But at the same time, CIG should explain it better too. And, like, from my understanding, Eradicator's been doing content for Star Citizen for quite a while now. So I would think that he would consume a lot more of the Star Citizen content. Reading what the developers are saying, reading those patch notes, trying to learn more about the mechanics. And in this situation, that's just it, Johan. Like, you've made a very, classic point there. There's a lot of information in Star Citizen that just isn't clearly explained. And unless you're like, looking at a lot of what CIG's putting out, like really looking at it, because we do it for our piracy stuff. Like, we're always looking for, what's going on with distortion damage, what's going on with QED, what's going on with, any sort of mechanic that we can use to further our capabilities with piracy gameplay. So when we see this hostility stuff come up, it's like, okay, we need to understand how this hostility timer works, because, like, it enables us to work out, how far we can actually push before we come up as a hostile, and those who are trying to pirate can fire back at us, without repercussions. So with what's going on here, though, is that, like, we've got a person that's been playing Star Citizen for a long time now. They didn't know about this. They got baited into it. And, like, he didn't scrub back that far, but you could see, like, and I stopped it. He's still blue. He's, like, Erad's in a heavy fighter. Old mate fought him in a Gladius, a light fighter. So the amount of damage required to apply to that heavy fighter is going to have to be a lot more than what you'd need to apply to that light fighter. These are all nuances that you need to know, especially as a pirate, how far you can actually push the system before it starts pushing back. All right, let's finish off the video.
A huge game-breaking situation here, because you should not be wanted when you are actually defending yourself and you are fighting and you defeat your attacker. You should in fact be rewarded, not being attacked. So that is a serious game-breaking issue here that I hope the developers are going to be considering and fixing for future iterations. We'll definitely be putting an issue in the issue council report if there hasn't been one already, but there's definitely going to be some contribution. Now the end of 30k error.
Oh, very apt.
Socket error. That means a plug came undone or something like that. Normally that's a client-side issue.
Here for good measure. That definitely was not a good day for the Eradicator. Anyway, guys, we got a giveaway this month. We are giving away
Giveaways, Agens.
What's he giving away?
A Gladius. Speaking of Gladius, a Showdown edition. All you have to do is to subscribe to the channel and answer the question right now. Do you do PvP, or are you more of a PvE guy? Do you avoid combat? What is your relationship with PvP and strategists? Let me know in the comment section down below.
I'm known as a
Don't forget to
griefer
subscribe to get you in that ship. Also, please join us on Discord. We've got a Broad Unlock pack with the LTI to win over there. All you have to do is to join our video sharing videos around this place in Star Citizen. And I'm so glad, by the way, that it will.
The scrubbing works now. Fuck me.
Okay.
All right. Well.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Erad, for that very fun and informative video. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I guess like I kind of, without even realizing it, kind of guess what was going to happen. And it happened. The point that he makes at the end, though, like defending yourself should not result in you getting a crime stat. And I agree with that to a certain point, because there are certain things that can be leveraged against you in order to create the scenario where you can bait somebody into attacking you so that you can defend yourself and get them sent to prison. Like
that's not allowed
here. And the problem that you've got is that the intent of what ERAD is irrelevant here. Something that a lot of players don't understand is that if CIG is going to create a law system, it needs to be able to work in an automated way. They've got to automate the law system so that there's no need, or a very small need, for humans to actually interact with the system to make determinations on who broke the law, or who did the wrong thing, or who is in the wrong. They need to create the law system in the game to be robust enough that it can determine that, which means that your intent on what you're going to do is going to be irrelevant a lot of the time. It does not matter if you sit there and go, but I'm the good guy. Law doesn't care about that, if you're good or not. It only cares about whether or not you did the thing that if you did the wrong thing or not. And if you do the wrong thing, if you got baited into it, well, you know, there's a lesson to learn out of that. And that's the thing about this, is like, Erad got shot at, but he's in a heavy fighter. The opponent didn't turn red because the opponent hadn't done enough damage to him. Erad locks a missile on him. Locking a missile on someone, even if you haven't fired it, is a hostile attack, which means that if you're locking a missile on someone, the game interprets that as you intend on firing a missile, which is interpreted as a hostile act. Therefore, you show up as red for them. You got a crime stat for killing a red player, but red does not mean that they were a criminal. And this is what I was talking about earlier on, is that old mate may have shown up as red for Erad, but Erad was showing up as red for him. Because red does not mean criminal, it means hostile.
Say it again.
And it goes by whoever initiates hostilities first. And even though old mate shot at Erad first, he hadn't turned red yet. So anything that Erad does up until old mate turns red, if he applies more damage, if he locks a missile, if he rams him, he will come up as a hostile before Oztec will. And Erad locked a missile, made himself a hostile first. So, as far as the game's concerned, Oztec was defending himself against Erad, even though Oztec shot at him first. Because shooting at someone is not considered a hostile act. Applying damage beyond a certain threshold is. And the reason why that stupid rule exists is because players don't have trigger discipline. And they accidentally shoot security forces and end up with end up as a hostile, and then get gunned down by the security forces because they shot at security. So they end up with assaulting security, a crime stat charge. Then security all turns on them. They lose their mission. They get shot at by security. They get sent to prison, and they're going, oh, it was an accident. So CIG came up with this system here. It's working as intended. It can be exploited by players though. And if you don't know, if you don't know that that's how it works, you're going to get baited. Yes, there is, Johan. You can scan players and see their crime stat level. Now, are you going to have time to do that when they're shooting at you? Not really. But if you're in a heavy fighter like a Scorpius and you're fighting a Gladius, and you know how to do your power plant management, or correction, your power management correctly, you can apply your shields, your power priority to shields so that you can absorb more of the damage, and wait until they turn red, and then just unleash on them.
Yeah, it takes about 10 seconds to get a full scan on a ship, but I can't exactly remember when exactly the crime stat rating of a player shows up on the scan. I'm pretty sure it's among the first bits of information you get.
Yeah, like Greedy's right, the UI is shit. But this entire system, like, he's sitting there, like, Erad's point is that this should not be happening. This is how it's supposed to work. Like, that's the irony of it. It's working as intended. It's just that he got baited into a situation where he made himself a hostile first. Becoming the hostile first means that you're considered the aggressor. The other person is defending themselves. Even if they turn red, they only became a hostile to you. But that doesn't mean that they're a criminal. And that also doesn't mean that you're going to get away with shooting at them because they turned red. This entire system is because Care Bears cried too much that they were getting crime stats from accidentally shooting security forces, and this was CIG's solution. So yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. It's working as intended. CIG needs to do a better job of communicating this. There's no dispute about that. They need to do a better job of communicating a lot of this information, but you know, they're building two games at the moment, so I think they're struggling for time. Although they did hit $500 million, you know, what was it, yesterday? So maybe
Like
they
12
could
hours
afford
ago.
some.
Yeah.
Maybe they could afford to spend some money on getting somebody to actually work on that communication a lot better.
They are communicating though.
Who am I kidding?
We get to know about what's happening with AI locomotion and the animations with you know, cooking and eating food. That stuff, that's the really interesting part, guys.
All right, that's enough. Like, that's like one of the few ERAD videos that I've actually watched. I don't really watch his stuff. I thought that was interesting. I thought by the title, I thought it was going to be a bit more.
This is what
Turns
you
out-
voted for, Mongrels, by the way. This is what you voted for.
But it seems like there's quite a few people in the chat that have actually learned something. So I'm glad you guys have picked something up on this, because I don't like to, you know, rag on people's videos or content or anything like that. But that was a lot more painful than I thought it should have been. My suggestion, if ERAD does end up watching this, my suggestion would be is to slow down on the commentary. And if you're going to show that, well, go back over your footage, and if you're going to do the replay, do the whole replay. All right, next video. Which apparently is not setting up.
Do a music check, chat. This stream is silent with no music apart from our voices. What music are you listening to add ambiance to the stream? Let us know in chat. I'm currently listening to a dark synth radio, like a YouTube radio. It's kind of neat. Recommend it. Like YouTube radio, like you ever find those like YouTube radio stations? Like there's a lot of them out there for like lots of different kinds of music. I recommend it. You can just throw one on. Great.
All right, I finally got this sorted out. Turns out I put the next video on a playlist that I didn't know that was there. All right, so the next video that we're going to be reacting to is from Space Tomato. Pretty cool dude. I believe he's on holidays at the moment. Not sure where. He's been updating his Twitter. Let's go over here and let's go here. And this particular video that we're reacting to is Will Hyper-Realism Drive Casual Players Away, featuring Ollie43. This is a snippet from a stream that he would have done with Ollie. It's only just under 8 minutes. But I thought this topic was pretty interesting because I have a concern that's similar to this, but it has less to do with hyper-realism. Let's get started.
There was someone pointed me to a post on, is it Spectrum, the forum?
Mm-hmm.
I think the title of the post was, "Is hyper-realism going to kill Star Citizen?" And I thought it was interesting because like for Hunt Showdown, you can jump into that game and get a satisfying experience out of like half an hour. Whereas Star Citizen, the post was basically, is it going to go too far in the hyper-realism direction? And like, I left a post and I sort of said, I don't want it to go too far because I don't want to have to invest 2 hours to get like satisfying gameplay. If I have to like have a shower and then go to the toilet and then fill up my ship and like all these things, and before I've even taken off, it takes me 2 hours to do something fun, then maybe it's like too much. I don't know what your thoughts on like hyper-realism and like Star Citizen, but for me, I would prefer it if I could jump in, spend 20 minutes and be like, cool, that was fun, I'm out.
Yeah, it's I have a lot of, I guess, ideas about it, because like there's so many ways they could go with it. But one of the things that they've done recently, or rather they're doing for 318, is updating Arena Commander, right? The races. They've talked about how they want to rebuild the racetracks and add the snake pit, and that's something they were doing with the combat stuff last year, Arena Commander stuff as well. And it's something they've done with Star Marine. They talk about Theaters of War possibly being a thing as well. So I see like these little modules that they have, and the way that they once explained that to us was that these modules were like video games in Star Citizen. So the idea would be you can go in Star Citizen, you have a long quantum jump, you could go into your sim pit, play a couple rounds of Star Marine. When you get out, you're done with your quantum travel. Of course, there are complications with that when it comes to like interdiction and stuff, but I've always wondered, would that be enough to like replace that immediate fun that you're talking about? If you could just jump into Star Citizen and then play like a dogfighting simulator, as opposed to jump into Star Citizen and go out into space and find bounties. Do you think that would be enough, or do you think they still need to make sure that there's casual play in the verse too?
I'm just going to pause it there, because these guys are talking about this as though this is an issue in the future, and we already deal with this now. Like our boarding team, we have people who are dedicated to boarding ships in our teams. And they will be sitting in the back of a ship for hours on end, waiting for their opportunity to go kick a door in and go shoot someone in the face.
We're playing liar's dice now.
And well, that was one of the solutions, is like, what was that game? Scribble?
Scribble.io?
Yeah. We had Scribble.io for a while, where, you know, the boarding team would play it. We got liar's dice with our bot. So, you know, people in the boarding team can play that to keep themselves, you know, occupied without going nuts or getting bored. Mario will bedlog and then go play Star Marine, and then when if we get a hit, he'll try and get back onto the ship in time. And, you know, hope that the server doesn't fill up and he can't get back on. Like, bedlogging does work, but you're always risking the fact that part of your boarding team may not be able to get back in time. And that's one of those situations where it's like, you could do that. My personal preference is that I'd rather have you there ready to go, because we don't know when we're going to find something, and it's like, you know, let's go. And then you're sitting there going, I'm stuck in the menus because the server just filled
Server's full. Oh, my entities are frozen.
Yeah, my entities are frozen.
Oh, fuck. I got all
Star Citizen things happen. But it's interesting that they're talking about these issues like, you know, there's something that's going to come in the future, because it's like, we're dealing with this shit now as pirates. And this is a point that I've actually made many times in the past, that piracy provides a window into the gameplay of Star Citizen that you don't really get with all the other professions. You know, like, we do things that would be happening later in the game development cycle for other professions, but we're already doing them now. And this is one of them. This is actually a huge concern of mine, because I know from my previous experience in the military that bored soldiers do dumb shit. And the boarding teams are no exception for that. So you need to keep them occupied with something, or else they're going to start doing dumb shit in game, and then one of them's going to fucking phase out of the ship, or somebody's going to drop a grenade, or bloody someone's going to get shot, or bloody, you know, somebody's going to get knocked out.
Someone's going to fall out of the ship.
Yep. Like, the only reason why I'm bringing up these examples is because that shit has happened before. So you need distractions. That's, you know, a reality of, you know, something that you got to deal with if you're a pirate. And this leads into a point that it's less about hyper-realism driving casual players away, but the resources required to play Star Citizen, to achieve tasks in Star Citizen, been too much. For example, a piracy team that we use, we call it a raider team. The minimum size for it is 11 people. And this gives us everything that we need to be able to pirate anything from a Aurora all the way up to a Hercules. An 890, a Reclaimer. We can pirate everything from... Actually, no, we can't do the Reclaimer 890 anymore because the distortion damage changes. All the way up to a Herc now.
Well, we could do it via lethal damage, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah. The thing about this is that 11 people is a lot of people to get together and then get them operating together for long periods of time. Of those 11 people, 4 of them are Marines. And you may throw one into the turret of the boarding ship. One of them may jump into the, because normally it's a Cutlass Blue. One of them will jump into the co-pilot's chair. But then you got 2 that are just kind of sitting around in the back. Now, if Mario's there, he'll just bedlog and go into Star Marine and just murder people until there's a target, and then he'll try and log back in. End up with frozen entities, log back in, wake up in bloody, at origin of the map, and then suicide, wake up at a hospital, and then we gotta go pick them up. So the thing about that is that we've been experiencing this for a long time, and keeping people occupied has been one of those things where it's like people log in to play Star Citizen to have fun. And it's not fun sitting in the back of a ship for hours on end waiting for something to hit.
Foba had a nap, like an actual IRL 15 to 20 minute nap, sitting in the back of a Cutlass.
Yeah. Like,
oh god,
Carlos last week was falling asleep, bloody waiting for a target to hit.
I'm usually tapped out watching YouTube or playing Liar's Dice.
Yep, like that's just it. You'll end up doing stuff like that because you're not really needed, and you're not needed until a moment's notice. But 11 people to perform a hit on a single ship, and you've got within that Raider team, you've got like your interdiction team, which is your EMPs and your QED. And then you got your boarding team, which is your boarding ship and your Marines. And then you got your counter escort, which is your fighters. And those fighters may not do anything. They may just be fucking floating around, just waiting, looking out, waiting for something to happen, making sure that, nobody comes to try and rescue the target. They're there to intercept them, protect the team. And that's like running. You can make that team leaner, but then you're setting up the conditions of failure to be higher. And this is one of those things where it's like, these guys are talking about like that, that's something that's going to, deal with in the future. It's like, it already exists now, man. You're going to have to learn to deal with this shit. But will hyper-realism drive casual players away? Really comes down to what expectations we're expected to meet within the game space. Like, we've already got drinking and eating.
We'll also get loading each and every individual bullet into the magazine of the gun that you're going to be using.
Yeah, I think
that's going to be fun, right, guys?
I think that'll change. I think that'll just change into one of those tasks that you set yourself to do, and then you just let your character put the bullets in there. And it's almost like kind of like a loading screen, but your character's doing the animation of filling the magazine, and that's your loading. Now, is it going to be, annoying? Yeah. Will CIG implement mechanics or systems that'll get us around that? More than likely.
It just depends on the kind of gameplay that you're after. Like, CIG is appealing to an audience, and for as long as the game has been in development or even been talked about, really, you know, their intended audience hasn't really changed. So it's only the scope of the game that's gotten bigger, which is where I think the crux of the argument is. It's like, how much scope of a game is too much? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's not about the type of gameplay. It's just how convoluted it's going to be, if at all.
Captain Brewski, how are you meant to load a laser gun mags? They're batteries, mate. You just plug them into the wall. You could use laser bullets. Yeah, Metroximus, this is what I dislike about current SC content creators. They speak on topics which are always future-looking and subject to change, or just end up complaining in general. It's because it's a trending thing. Like, that's just it. You know, one of the observations I've made about this community within Star Citizen is that there are more people that are in love with the idea of Star Citizen and love the idea of playing it, as opposed to playing it.
Kind of weird, isn't it?
Like, there's a lot that you can do in this game, a lot more. It just comes down to people wanting to, you know, pursue it, put the time and effort in, and try and make it work.
Surrounding yourself with the right kind of people too, that also share that perspective.
Yeah, that helps a lot. But, you know, this is one of those things where, like, I haven't really tracked Ollie 43 much. I know he's, I guess you'd say that he's a relatively big YouTuber within the gaming community.
Yeah, generally speaking. I mean,
like, he's got over a million subs.
Yeah, given the scope of like YouTube, it's kind of hard to say if like 1 million subs is like super mega huge now. Like, it's a huge accomplishment. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, given the amount of channels and the amount of creators in a certain community space, depending on the game, have like more than 1 million subs, it's like, you know, it's becoming more and more common, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And Ollie specifically, I'm pretty sure I've watched a few of his videos here and there, and I think he mostly just walks around touring ships and does bounty missions, and he basically just experiences a lot of the in-game missions as a solo player, essentially. There's nothing wrong with that.
My thing about this is, like, I don't know how long he's been tracking Star Citizen for or anything like that. And he's kind of like just within the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 months, maybe 6. It's kind of like just started becoming, you know, coming into the community now. And he's already asking these sorts of questions. And it's like, look, you know, you need to experience more of this game.
Well,
it's not a bad question.
He's surrounding himself with people that talk about this stuff all of the time, that do nothing except do talking head dreamer talk. You know what I mean? Like, if you surround yourself with that kind of people, then you're obviously going to be molded into having that perspective. Doesn't matter how, like, you know, long or how short you've been in the game. If you hang out with those kind of people that just basically talk a bunch and don't really do anything, then yeah.
I just saw what Anta said. All right, let's see what else I got to say.
Well, I guess like my response to the post was like, I'm just worried about it being too much. But if they've thought about it and they've come up with ideas, like you say, hey, you can now jump into Arena Commander for a while. Yeah, maybe that would be enough for me to be like, okay, cool. But the only thing for me is I don't want to have each play session be at least an hour. Otherwise, you can't play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I've only got an hour, so I can't play Star Citizen. That would be really annoying.
Yeah, I get that. So. I agree with you there. Like, even if you're not doing the same thing every time you jump on, you want to do something fun. And I guess it comes down to, like, what's fun? Are you like, if you're a cargo hauler, are you cool with jumping in for an hour and spending that hour looking for the right job in the city and then getting that job and then loading your ship and then like signing off so you could take the trip later, or do you want to do all of that in that 1 hour?
Yeah, I guess it kind of the signing out of your ship and going to bed and like logging out, how that like on off. Like if I can just log out and I reappear exactly where I was, none of this matters because you could just stop and start as much as you wanted, right? But it doesn't. The game doesn't work like that. You like at the moment, if you sign out, you end up in Habs, and you have like a 5-minute trek to a spaceport. Like that aspect. If I can like reduce that, then now I will be okay with it. Like if I can, you know, today I'm gonna just set up my ship, and then tomorrow I'm gonna go do dogfighting or whatever. Like that would be cool.
Have you not logged out from a ship before?
Yeah, a couple of times, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah, it doesn't. I just didn't know if you knew that was like a feature that they're working on. Yeah, so that I mean that's supposedly the plan, and that's kind of what I was getting at is like how many chunks do you need of that mission? But it's a good question. Like the hyper-realism thing has been something that has gone back and forth since I've been around. I mean, people were constantly saying, is this going to be a space sim, like a hardcore space sim? Or is it going to be kind of more casual so more people can jump in? And I think actually as we've progressed, they've moved more casual.
More casual agents?
I wouldn't say that.
More casual.
I wouldn't say that at all. Like, they've introduced more mechanics that bring it closer to a sim. Drinking and eating comes to mind straight away. The medical system where injuries can affect your avatar. The need for climate control. You can't just wear whatever armor you want anywhere you go. Like if you want to go rock mining on Aberdeen, you better make sure you take a Pembroke, because if you don't, you're going to overheat part of the way through your mining trip and end up having to respawn and do a corpse run to get back to your ship, to get back to your rock and all that.
Yeah. Considering how simple the game was back then, like baby PU days, like especially in early 3.0.
The thing,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the thing, I guess the main issue, like, that's kind of getting brought up here, like, one, we're considering casual players. So, you know, a casual player is someone that doesn't really invest themselves in the gameplay that they're engaging in beyond the excitement or the experience that they have in the moment that they are engaging in that gameplay. And then afterwards, they're not thinking about it, you know, that much, or they're not concerned about going back to participating in that gameplay, you know, within a short period of time, you know, within hours or, you know, the next day. Casual player may play one day and then, you know, come back to it a few days later. And the thing about that is that for CIG to aim for gameplay at that sort of audience who have a limited amount of time, the gameplay that they're going to get presented with isn't going to be as impactful or as engaging as what you would get if you were able to spend more time. Now, there are things that CIG could implement that could help facilitate casual gameplay a lot better. And they already have some of those systems there. They're just not fully functional yet. Like, they still need bug testing. Casual play is a play style, not a playtime metric. The playtime metric does come into account when you're talking about casual gameplay. Because the amount of time that you invest in playing contributes to how you would actually play and influences your play style. Like, for value to have meaning in anything, the amount of time that you invest into gaining that value needs to correlate with the effort that you put in. And if it only takes you, as Marcel's pointing out here, if something that you can do in 30 minutes gets you something of, you know, great value that you could, that if you spent 2 hours doing would equate to the same amount, no one would do the thing that takes 2 hours. Everybody would just focus on the effort of what, you know, you can get in 30 minutes. And this is one of those things where it's like, what are you, like, as a casual player, what are you looking at trying to gain out of your gameplay session? Because more than likely it's going to be shorter. More than likely it's not going to be as focused on achieving a longer term goal. You're more focused on what you can get out of within the moments that you're playing within that game. So what are you trying to achieve? Are you expecting to be able to you know, make, you know, a couple of 100,000 credits, you know, within an hour? Well, then, you know, what activities are you engaging in? Chances are you're not going to be able to do that, because if you can make that in an hour, somebody who's there grinding away for 8 hours, they're going to make a lot more. They're going to make a lot more. They're going to get further ahead, and that casual player is going to look at them and go, this is unfair. And that'll push them away. So it's one of those situations where it's like, the value that you get out of playing Star Citizen, and this is one of those things where, like, people who put value on, you know, the amount of credits that you gain, which is ironic coming from somebody who plays as a pirate. The people who put more value on, you know, the amount of credits that you get out of this game are going to have they're not going to have as good of a time as those who value the experiences that you get out of it. You're always going to end up in this position where it's like the experience is going to be more rewarding than those credits. The credits are like the topping on the dessert. The experience is the dessert. But if you've only got a short period of time, or you're not going to be playing as often, then what you're going to find is that your experience, your dessert, isn't going to be as, you know, large, or may not be as good. And you need to be okay with that. There's things that CIG need to address, like the pain points of what they expect players to engage in, like, you know, having to eat, having to drink. Eventually they'll add in hygiene, maintaining your hygiene. Positioning yourself ahead of time so that you can engage in certain activities. And CIG's kind of addressed some of this. You know, we can bed log in ships. Ships come with, you know, the ability to store items in there. So you can carry stuff with you. You're going to have to plan ahead. And that's probably the biggest thing, is like, you're going to have to plan ahead. And they bring it up a bit, you know, like getting your ship set up so that the next day you can come in and, you know, do the thing that you wanted to do. Okay, that's good. To be honest, what CIG needs to do in order to address this issue, in my opinion, is that they need to provide the ability to automate certain activities. So, for example, when we're looking at, you know, having to get your ship set up, for example, you would probably want to make sure that you've got your kit on that ship, you know, that it's got food and drinks and your weapons and ammunition for those weapons, any sort of parts that you can use to repair your ship and all that sort of stuff. Whatever you feel like you actually are going to need, being able to automate the collection of all those items by, you know, like ordering it on Space Amazon and getting it delivered to your hangar so that you can then just shove it all onto your ship and then be ready to go would help out a lot. You know, the rest stops have habs on them so that you don't end up in that position where you're starting at the, you know, starter locations and you got to take the train to bloody get to the spaceport to be able to get into your ship, then you got to fly through all the atmosphere, which is why everybody hates Crusader. The rest stops are there to provide that convenience of not having to take the train and being able to just get to your ship straight away. Catch you later, Sari. My headset just died.
Well, get fucked, Agens. That's really all I gotta say.
Yep, that's alright. Good thing I can still use it when it's plugged in.
Wireless headphones, fucking.
Actually, I haven't spent much time charging them today. They've lasted quite a long time. Yeah, like, there's certain things that are tedious within the gameplay of Star Citizen that COG could look at providing services that automate them, that alleviate time wasting. You know, like those activities where it's like, and they've already talked about it for Cargo Refactor when you're buying your cargo and you can hire NPCs to load the ship for you. So instead of you and your mates doing it, you pay NPCs to do it and they load your ship for you. That's one of the examples there of them providing that level of convenience. You can load it yourself or you can pay someone else to do it for you. And that's one of the things that, like, that's the give and take. And that's one of those things where I think a lot of people, once again, get caught up in the dream of what Star Citizen can be and forget about, you know, seeing the details. They keep looking at the macroscape and not paying attention to the little things that they're going to have to deal with as well. All right, let's move on.
In terms
Do you reckon?
of
Okay.
Yeah, in
Okay.
terms of some of the stuff.
As someone who's like recently jumped in and the way they talk, it came across to me at least that they were heading more realism. Like when I signed on, there wasn't hydration and stuff, and then on a recent patch, they kind of emphasize how often you have to drink, how often you have to eat. So from my perspective, it was like, okay, they're dialing that like realism
Jack.
thing up
Hello, Jack.
ever so slightly all the time.
Yeah, and I guess that's where it gets confusing because they'll have these plans. So like we've known for years that we'll have thirst and hunger, that we'll have like a permanent death kind of situation. Not, I hate saying permanent death, but like the whole death of a spaceman mechanic and that kind of stuff. But then you don't actually know how far they're going to go until they actually get there. So like you said, they recently kind of dialed in that survival mechanics, but for all we know, they could dial it back again, you know, and make it a lot less survivally. So I never really know exactly where they're going with it, but they've always set this baseline and it seems like they sort of stick to it. They want it to be pretty hardcore, but they want to make sure that people can jump in and play casually, as casual as you can play an MMO, I guess.
Would you want it? Are you one of the people that would want it hyper-realism, or are you quite happy with it being kind of a little bit casual as well?
It's kind of funny. I go back and forth. Like, I'll see one feature and I'm like, yeah, go super in depth with that. And then I'll see another feature and I'm like, no, please. And I guess that's actually kind of another thing I like about the game is like, I feel like this game won't work unless they build a bunch of stuff into it that we don't like, that like certain people don't like, you know? So I think a good like middle ground is good. For me, if they were doing the survival mechanics, I would prefer if they said food and water is like a buff. You know, you don't have to use it to survive, but if you don't use it, you're going to be running at a much lower level than other people.
Technically, it is a buff. It's just the condition of not meeting your food and water quota is that first you'll suffer health issues and then your character dies. I understand that he just doesn't want the part where you die, but why would you bother with food and water unless the buffs were significant enough that you would actually bother with it? So you can go the other extreme and it be that if you don't, you know, keep yourself fed and watered, you're going to die. And you don't want that inconvenience happening to you, because that normally means that you're going to be waking up at your rest stop. And then you're going to have to reclaim your ship and then re-kit your ship out and all that sort of stuff. And this is one of those things where it's like, it's a mentality that you just need to adopt. If you played a lot of survival games, you'll understand this. It's like, it's just what you do. You know, this is just part of how you play the game, and it becomes part of your routine. I understand the point though, and there was the question, Dobbs, what do you like? How far would you like the game to be real? What's your limit for hyper-realism in Star Citizen?
Well, personally, I'm a fan of well, I guess there's two answers to this. I enjoy a good casual gameplay experience, which is why when I'm not playing Star Citizen, I'm usually playing games like, you know, Apex Legends or Overwatch or Call of Duty, like other FPS games that don't require a lot of premeditated setup or action before I can actually get to the core gameplay experience that I'm looking for. I do enjoy that, but I also enjoy that process as well. I do enjoy like when you have to actually spend time to set up to go out and, you know, to do the things that you do, because for me, all of that, especially when you're doing it with people, it adds it makes everything that you do feel more meaningful. Like everything that you took, everything that you do with those items, the goals that you set and everything that you achieve, the tasks that you complete, they mean more based on all that work you put into it beforehand. And that's the part that I like about a more hyper-realistic, if we want to use that term, a more hyper-realistic setting. In terms of Star Citizen specifically, I feel like so far they've struck a good balance between that hyper-realism and that sort of that casual game space, because there are certain game loops in the game where it is pretty, or it can stay pretty casual. You know, like I can, for instance, if I want to go out and grind bounties or do any sort of PvE mission, it takes me less than 5 minutes to jump in my ship, get out there, and, you know, fly around and do a couple of missions before I consider, you know, I've had enough. And then there's other times, like if, for instance, like when we're going out and doing piracy, you know, we go out there, we train first, we set up logistically everything that we need. We, you know, make sure all of our Marines are properly kitted with food, water, ammunition, medical supplies, and everything. All of our ships are correctly kitted with the proper weapons and everything before we go out and actually find a target. And I enjoy all like those small little nuances. The thing that I don't enjoy, because I think that there's a line that needs to be drawn to where what actually, or what amount of realism enhances the gameplay versus what amount of realism takes away from it. Like magazine loading, for example. We joked about it before, but does that enhance the gameplay? Does that make your gameplay experience better, or does it take away from it? Because it gets to a point where what benefit does that really add you, or does that really give, other than immersion sake? Like, oh my god, I feel so immersed in this world that I have to fucking put on my socks before my shoes and tie my shoelaces, and, you know, like that kind of thing. That is where it creeps into the realm of it being stupid, convoluted, with no value other than the sake of, oh my god, so detailed and immersion, right? That part of it I don't really care about, because look at the game world that we're playing in. There's already an incredible amount of immersion with the scale of the planets and space that we're exploring, the amount of detail that goes into the ships that we fly around in, everything. Like it, I really can't see how it can get more immersive than it is right now. So, you know, any other little nuances that you add to certain gameplay lends potential to it becoming a lot more, you know, convoluted. Like, and that's not to say, like, for instance, like salvaging in the future, when you have to actually break apart the ship and you have to use the claw and the reclaimer to munch it and everything, like, that's fine. Like, that's not making it convoluted. That's adding more meaningful gameplay to a profession, and that's fine. So I think there just needs to be a balance between adding gameplay and then, you know, whilst removing any sort of stupid convoluted stuff that doesn't add anything. I guess that's my take on it.
So there's a few people in the chat that have brought up similar points to you. I'm not after hyper-realism, but I do see some of the nuances that they've added as enhancing gameplay, but not when you want it. And the example that I'm going to use, I'm going to go back to like the survival game examples here. Making sure that your character is prepped and ready to go before you go out, because if you don't do your preparation properly when you're out there, you know, for us doing piracy, for example, if we're doing if we're stalking a rock and we want to do a hit on it, and we decide that we're going to dismount, well, if we don't bring the right equipment, then we're going to have to work within the constraints of not having the right equipment. So for Aberdeen, we would need to take a Pembroke to make sure that we, you know, don't suffer the heat consequences, which means that we're limited on what weapons we can actually carry unless we've got a backpack. So we need to make sure we also take a backpack with us. We also need to make sure that before we leave the ship, we're hydrated and that we're fed, because we're not going to be able to eat and drink while we're out there going after the target if we're having to dismount for long periods of time. Now, people may see that as tedious, but the consequences of not doing that can actually enhance the gameplay, because now you're in a position where it's like, all right, I'm racing against the elements. I want to achieve my goal, and this is going to make this task more difficult. But if I achieve the goal that I'm aiming for, so in this case, being able to successfully pirate a rock miner, without using that kit, the sense of achievement is a lot greater. Now, a lot of people are going to sit there and go, well, you know, the time that the amount of times that I'm going to have to go through that is, you know, pretty minimal versus having to eat and drink. It's like, yeah, but you're still going to remember those experiences. You're going to learn from those lessons. Mic drop, the first time that we hit Salty Mike, was a turning point in the org where a lot of people who were a part of the Marines didn't bring Pembrokes. Only 2 people survived the ground assault to get onto the ship. And those were the 2 Marines that brought Pembrokes.
And the others died of heat exhaustion.
Yeah. And that's what I mean is, like, they could have made it on the ship. We had diverted a little bit, and then we're like, no, we got to go for the ship. The problem is that they were already suffering from heat exhaustion at that point. So by the time they get onto that ship, they're going onto the ship at a disadvantage. They're suffering from the consequences of the heat, which means that when you're going through that particular scenario, you're under extra stresses there. And you can prepare for that ahead of time by making sure that you got the right kit, by making sure that you're hydrated and that you're fed. But if you don't, then you're going to be suffering those conditions, and you could consider that as enhancing your gameplay. You're more being pushed into a more immersed state, because it's like, if you're doing that for real, you would be severely dehydrated and, you know, going through heat stroke, and your vision would be blurred, and you would be fatigued, and you would be struggling to get along, but you're still aiming to achieve a goal. The frustrating part is that you as a person are sitting there at the screen not suffering any of those conditions. It's your avatar in the game, and that's the frustrating part. And that's, you know, like, people are willing to deal with those, you know, issues in the game as long as they feel the immersion there. And the way that you achieve immersion is by setting routines for people to maintain and putting them in environments that they believe, and that when they interact with them, that they have an impact. So for myself, I'm okay with, you know, certain things that they put into the game, like having to eat, having to drink, having to consider your medical state, your avatar's, you know, heat state, you know, cold state, your vision state. Hygiene will just be one of those things where it's like, all right, you're just gonna have to deal with it. You know, like, if you, hopefully it's just, you know, your character just has to shower and it's just a quick cutscene. You know, it's just quickly select it. Yep, same thing again. You know, I don't want to have to, you know, sit my character there for 10 minutes while it's taking a shit. And I'm pretty sure COG is savvy enough that they're not going to make you do that. It'll be more or less one of those situations where it's like, you select that, you go into the toilet, and then the bloody, you know, the meter or the condition that would show up in the bottom left hand of your screen just, you know, disappears. That the thing that you needed to, you know,
no, you know what I
shit
want?
that you needed to take is now being, you know, done.
You know what I want, Agens? There's this game called Subnautica. You guys may have heard of it, where you can craft. I forget what exactly it is you can craft, but there's a way where you can actually take your urine and turn it into fresh water that you can drink. But what was funny is that you had a suit on, and then whenever you would piss, you would get like a notification on the center of your screen that says, "Hey, you have a bag of piss now." and you can use it to craft other items. I want that in Star Citizen. Thoughts on that? I would love to have just a fucking bag of piss and then use it for whatever I need to.
Reminds me of Ark, when you take a shit and just falls out your character, and then you can pick it up and throw it at people. Or make someone
Yeah,
eat it.
exactly. I want to throw it at people.
But this is one of those things where it's like, these small things lead up to more impactful decision making that you have to make. And people will sit there and go, oh, it's tedious, you know, blah, blah, blah. Once you get into the routine of having to deal with it, it's not that bad. You know, like, once again, going back to my, you know, survival games, Ark, Atlas, bloody H1Z1, DayZ, like, those conditions that you have to manage just become part of the routine of playing the game. And as long as what you've got to do isn't, you know, too tedious, then it should be fine.
Yeah.
The flip side of it is that people who want, you know, really complex game mechanics, you know, you have the people that keep complaining about beams. You know, we got the medical beam, the salvaging beam, the repair beam, tractor beam. And it's like, all right, well, you know, what do you want? You know, do you want us to have to run up to a rock and hit it with a pickaxe? Do you want, you know, like, when you got to apply medical aid to somebody, that you got to apply a bandage and hit them with a medical pen, and then the right bandage, and then, you know, splint things and do all that sort of stuff? How does that look within the game space? Like, do we really need to, you know, put that in there? Does that enhance the game? Who does that enhance the game for?
I want a chainsaw so I can literally cut pieces off ships. I want that kind of gameplay nuance, guys. Come on, let's all rally behind that. Can we make a Spectrum post, please? Give me a fucking chainsaw.
Like, there's, when we're looking at the casual players though, with hyper-realism, this is just one of those things where it's like, there's got to be a bit of give and take. Like, everybody, like, there's a level playing field for engaging in the gameplay, and then if you want to go beyond that, I would say that's where like you wouldn't be considered a casual player. Right, let's finish this video off. It's only a minute.
Maximum capacity to carry stuff is lower, your stamina is lower, you can't hold your breath as long. Stuff like that, I think, would make sense. But I'm not sure about, oh, I don't eat for 3 hours and I'm dead. That's...
Okay, exactly.
Obesity tech,
but that sounds like their medical system, right? How you like overdose when you take too much medicine.
Oh no, the armor store don't have XL. Damn it! Like they don't have the right suit size.
Yep, only an undersuit for you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that would be funny.
Yeah, let's get some fat suits. Can we get fatness in Star Citizen? I would like it. I think it would be very very symbolic for the Star Citizen community at large. We really feel like we really feel like we're accurately and authentically represented within the game. Thoughts on that, chat? Fucking fatness tech. Let's do it. We got those. They're called the Zeus suit. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, fat with a PH. I like it. That's when you know.
Yeah, the whole realism, hyper-realism, I guess some people would just consider it realism, or just management systems would be a more accurate term. You know, when we're talking about managing your food, your water, your medical state. Those are just the little things that contribute to greater experiences that you could have later when dealing with particular scenarios that you could end up in. You know, oxygen is a finite resource. Go into prison and go explore the deeper tunnels. And don't take any oxygen pens with you, and you'll learn that oxygen is a finite resource. And the thing about that is that you think that, like, a lot of the time with the way that we play Star Citizen, you don't really think about your oxygen, because when you run onto a ship, you know, when you run onto a ship, go into an outpost, go into a station, or you go into a breathable atmosphere, it replenishes on its own. But, you know, if you do cave missions, you go to prison and you go deep in the caves and you don't take oxygen pens with you, it can actually be a stressful situation. Like one of the times I was just exploring the prison caves, I was looking to see if there was any other escape routes there. And I was running low on oxygen. And I was scrambling around, like the closest, what's it called? The closest oxygen kiosk was like I think it was like a 10-minute walk from where I was at. And I only had 5 minutes of oxygen left. So what was I going to do? Started fucking running. And then I learnt for the next time, if I'm going to go explore those caves, I better make sure I take some oxygen pens. So I went scrounging around. This was before they had the kiosks there to give you out the oxygen pens. I went scrounging around inside the caves and picked up as many of those oxygen pens as I could carry. And made sure that when I went deeper into the caves of the prison that I had those oxygen pens with me, and, you know, hit myself with those and work out how much time I had left. And was it tedious to have to deal with that sort of thing? Kind of, but I was exploring, and that was one of the constraints that CIG had put on me in that sort of scenario, that I had to manage a resource. I had to be concerned about something. There was risk in what I was doing, even though all I was doing was walking, you know, around. There was no animals there to attack me. There was no, like, bloody players that deep that were looking to attack me. All I was doing was exploring, just walking around, but they made it more risky if I wanted to be able to come out of that situation without having to, you know, suicide and reset myself. And the thing about that is like in this game, you don't really need to worry about the consequences of death right now. But CIG does intend for that to be something that you need to worry about in the future. You know, and that in of itself means that the mechanics that they're going to add are going to have an impact on your characters' lives. And through that, they add value to what you're doing in the game a lot further. And some people may sit there and go, like, I don't want to engage in that sort of stuff, and like, that's okay, but if you want to play, that's what you got to do. And the way I see it, you know, it's just part of playing the game, and you'll get used to it. I don't think suspension of disbelief is necessary. It's being able to draw you into what you're doing and investing you in what you're trying to achieve. But how long have we been going for? We're at the 2.5 hour mark. Over
2
again.
hours, 32 minutes, and 42 seconds. Congratulations, chat. This is your fucking fault. I'm totally kidding, by the way. This is Agens' fault.
Yeah, it is. I should really put myself on a timer. No, it was good. It was good to do this again. Less ranty, more reactiony, which was good.
Closing in on Lord of the Rings Extended Edition runtime. Thoughts on that, Agens?
I thought we'd still be at the standard. I thought like Lord of the Rings,
On
2.5 hours
How
just
about
a standard.
this? We're gonna do this right now. Lord of the Rings Extended Edition runtime. 2 hours and 58 minutes for the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring Extended Edition.
We're not sticking around for another 20 minutes. Anyway, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for coming along for these reactions. Some really good topics. As I said, less ranty, more reactionary, which was good to experience. Jack wants us to read Spectrum threads in a mocking voice. Well, if you're on the Mongrel Squad Gilded and you've got access to the, I call it the streamer group, Mongrel Squad streamers group there, yeah. Then you can vote. You can provide suggestions there and you can vote on what we'll review. I don't have a set stream schedule yet because it could be changing at any point. But more than likely, it seems like for me, it's early Wednesday mornings, but around the time that I started the stream, which is like 2.5 hours ago, that seems to be around the time that's best for me. It's quiet. The kids are all asleep, so you won't hear kids screaming in the background. And, yeah, I normally don't have work on the day that I'm doing this on. So anyway, I'll try and announce it a little bit further ahead of time so that you guys are able to plan better. This will be still on YouTube when I'm going to go to sleep after this. When I do wake up, I'll add all the chapters and all that sort of stuff. I am considering actually grabbing these videos as well and cutting them down even further to highlight certain points, get rid of all the extra waffling and get to the point on some of them so that if you want to share these videos with your friends, you'll be able to share shorter versions that actually get to the point.
Maybe Mongrel Squad's second channel? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, we're struggling enough as it is to grow the first one.
Hey, you know what? If our loyal and dedicated audience asks for it, I will do my best to bark at Agens for it to be the thing. I am your representative, chat. Just remember that.
next video from us should be coming out. It'd be this Friday, roughly the same time. It'll be an interesting one for you guys. A little bit embarrassing for us, but at the same time, it kind of highlights the attitude that we take towards piracy. Anyway, once again, thank you very much for watching. I'll more than likely see you guys this time, or 2.5 hours ago, next week. And yeah, catch us all then.